This is a story that has literally made my blood boil. An illegal immigrant who was jailed for raping, yes, raping a young woman at knife point, has escaped deportation on medical grounds. I know. 43-year-old Joachim Cardos was diagnosed with schizophrenia while serving his sentence for raping a woman, but a judge in Scotland has now ruled that sending him back to the Gambia would potentially be a breach of his human rights.
Well, joining us now is former Detective Chief Inspector at the Met Police, Mike Neville. Thank you for joining us, Mike. Can you just explain to us why this man who's been convicted of raping a young woman has been allowed to stay in the country?
Well, really, it's the Human Court of Human Rights and the Human Rights Act, which was brought in by Tony Blair. So this trumps anything. I don't think we can imagine the Americans being told by Canadian or Mexican judges who could stay in the States. And this man knows, this Scottish judge knows that this appeal will go to the European Court of Human Rights and will probably be allowed to go through. What we see constantly is that the rights of offenders, and this man wasn't just a rapist, he was dealing drugs at the time of committing rape. Wow. The rights of the criminal are often put far above the rights of victims and potential victims, because, of course, violence against women and girls is particularly wicked, and leaving rapists in the country just gives more chance that will happen.
Mike, last week we interviewed on our first show Ralph Berger, Jamie Bulger's father. And I called out Alex Chalk, the Justice Secretary, because I think that the criminal justice system in this country absolutely, as you quite rightly said, has got to the point where it seems to, the victims are gone and it's all about the perpetrators of the crime. This is an absolutely appalling indictment of what is wrong with this country. He raped a woman. He traded drugs. But OK, let's worry about, his... What about her rights? What about the impact this has had on her? What about how she deals with the rest of her life? And for all the people, and Nick might not agree with this, for all the people saying we need to leave the ECHR, there's an absolute bone of contention there, because why are we allowing something to happen?
I mean, Jeremy, I share your anger here, that it's just not good enough it's just not good enough that this man's been allowed to stay in the country. And what it is all about broken Britain. So not just do we see that the Home Secretary is making all the right noises, but there's a whole liberal left establishment against her. And what you see is the government itself, though, gives money, millions of pounds, to charities that are pro-migration, will support these people. The Labour Party objecting to criminals being deported out of the country. So neither party comes out of this very well. And this is not what people voted for. People expect violent and vicious foreign criminals to be deported out of this country as soon as possible. And the other thing as well, of course, is this man, he didn't think of this excuse himself. Some charity, some left-wing lawyer, they've come up with these stories for him. So it's just the whole establishment is against him.
I've got to say, you can say all you like about right-wing or left-wing lawyers. The law is the law, and they have to apply it as it is fit. And whilst I completely share both of your sentiment, the absolute outrage that this man has been allowed to stay in the country despite the fact that, he's served his time, and after his time was served, Yes, Jeremy, he served his time and he should have been deported back to his country. However, we need to also look at all the other rapists in the UK, the rapists within the Metropolitan Police, rapists that we have on home soil, who we cannot deport. So I know we can use this one example of saying we need to leave the ECHR. OK, fine, I don't agree with you on that specifically, but I would rather we focus our efforts on the multitude of rapists within our home country as well.
Well, can we say that we'd have far more money to deal with those people if we weren't monitoring this sort of individual? We've got enough rubbish of our own without keeping people who should be deported out of this country. And you say the law is the law. Well, let's change the law. This is not what the public voted for. Whilst 5% and the liberal elite, which you probably represent, think this is a good idea, 95% don't. And
why
that's
do I
not
represent
a democracy.
The liberal elite,
and
Mike?
we're sick
I represent
of
women
people.
as somebody who has been sexually assaulted. I represent women in this. I don't like when it gets turned into some sort of...
You want to keep a rapist in the country.
I've never said that.
Represent women.
Mike, when did I say that?
Listen, I could talk about this all morning. I think the fact of the matter is a rapist, right, has to be found guilty. And in this instance, I do not in any way believe that this man should stay in this country. But I'll take Nick's point. Any rapist, our criminal justice system is not strong enough. All yours, Nick.